Does anybody remember? And some of them were backed by sheepskin, some were backed by wheat, some were backed by nothing at all except each other. And that's what kept the infrastructure together while the rest of the system was busy off there trying to figure out how they were going to take our property and bankrupt us all. But the people are very adaptive, and I think we'll be adaptive again. I think we're going to find the time is coming when these are going to continually shrink, if not disappear altogether, into either some credit, debit, computer type system, or simply just be devalued to the point where the buying power is so little that you can't get what you need with them. But they'll follow the pace of the peso, the root of the peso. And I believe this will happen in short time, that the dollar is going to free fall. Remember, the central banks aren't going to float the value of the currency anymore. They already decided they will not buy Treasury securities anymore. It means that the US dollar has to compete on the international currency market with all the other currencies out there. And the true value of a currency is related to the true productivity of the nation. So if we're all busy at war here and all fighting each other and we're all sitting at our desk pushing paper around and we're not really producing anything, the value of this is going to go down to its true market value, which could be 10 cents on the dollar. And it could just go down to just, you've heard the old story, you have to get a whole bushel basket full of $20 bills to buy a loaf of bread. I mean, that isn't unusual. The average life of a currency on the planet is 7 years of a paper inflatable currency. We've had an exceptionally strong currency for a long time, but that's because of the nature of our country and the strength of the productivity, but also the plan that the New World Order has had for us has been special in this world, because we're the only people who still have that sovereignty right here. It's right there, and it's alive and well. We might have to dust it off a little bit. We might have to practice a little bit more, start behaving like sovereigns a little bit more than we are, take a lot more responsibility than we have in our lives, stop depending on other people, stop pointing the finger at other people and blaming other people for your problems, stop being a victim, start being responsible. We're all responsible. And that's the beginning of the values and the virtues that we need to reestablish in order to get the constitutional republic back in order again. And it's going to come and rise up out of the people, out of necessity, but also out of a spiritual vision that we can, in fact, that we must. We're compelled. We're compelled by what is right, by what is true, and by the natural law and by God's law to do so. So just briefly, how's our time getting here? We got about 10 minutes? Okay, we're perfect then. Perfect timing. I've got to talk a little bit about the legal system because I have not said a lot about it, but as you'll see, it relates perfectly and correlates to the political system and also the economic system. When the country went bankrupt the first time, we went off of the common law. Prior to 1938, all the law that was practiced was common law, which is constitutional law, which was case law, which meant common law meant you had due process, jury trials. As long as there were sovereign people and there was common law and there was a valid money system, the republic was in order. As long as you had the sovereign people, the sovereign states, and the common law and a constitutional money system, the republic is in order. When the sovereign people begin disappearing, when the country goes bankrupt, then the common law disappears, and then you have negotiable instruments law or bankruptcy law. Ever since 1938, we've been dealing in the Uniform Commercial Code, negotiable instruments law, law of the law merchant, the international law of the high seas, and the law of the creditor is admiralty. Admiralty jurisdiction, maritime procedure. The sovereigns do not exist on the land. They exist on the sea, in between nation states, in legal structures that exist under admiralty and maritime. All the power structures that are sovereign do not have allegiance to nation states. The nation states are their servants. They are created as ships of state to execute the sovereignty. The sovereign powers have always used the admiralty jurisdiction and maritime procedures to execute their procedures. That is the only thing going on in the courts today. All issues of traffic, revenue, and insurance are admiralty. And in an admiralty proceeding, which most people don't understand because they can't conceive of it, they think that, one, we still have a Constitution and a Bill of Rights, and it's the law of the land, and we have common law, and we have rights, and we have due process, and there's actually procedures here that follow the constitutional standards. There are none. Remember, there is no Constitution or Bill of Rights without the sovereign people. There is no common law in a bankrupt country. There's only admiralty law. In 1933, when the country went bankrupt, it declared a perpetual state of national emergency, which was bankruptcy. We have been in a perpetual state of national emergency since 1933. There have been 470 consecutive states of emergency without a breath for the constitutional republic to breathe. One executive order after another. Also, in a perpetual state of national emergency, the Constitution is suspended as well. And so what is being executed in the legal systems today under admiralty jurisdiction and maritime procedures? When you get a traffic citation, it is a maritime procedure. When they are impounding your property, it is a maritime procedure. When they have forfeited your land, it is a maritime procedure. But they don't tell you that. They play games and they pretend with you. The second they seize your property, they've executed an admiralty claim. They seized your vessel or your vassal. A vassal is a slave. You'll look on the California registration, you'll see the registration is for vessels. All of your property is a vessel, whether it's on land or on sea. And an admiralty proceeding is initiated at the moment that they seize your vessel or your body, which is their property, and a vessel as well, when they arrest you. In an admiralty proceeding, you cannot challenge jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is assumed the second they confiscate the property. Then what the courts do is they shift from admiralty to equity, without telling you. And now they perform under a quasi-contract. Because in an admiralty contract, if it was an admiralty jurisdiction, there would have to be a signed international contract in force. But they know there isn't one with your name on it. But there is one with the name of the Federal United States on it. And since you're a subject of the Federal United States, the Federal United States is subject to its creditors. The creditors are the insurance underwriters of the debt of the Federal United States, executing an admiralty claim in the court systems. Your accuser is the International Monetary Fund for a simple traffic citation. And who is the proctor? The proctor in an admiralty proceeding is the U.S. attorney. In fact, all the attorneys are proctors, acting on behalf of the creditors. In a bankruptcy, the Secretary of the Treasurer is a receiver in a bankruptcy who is also the governor of the International Monetary Fund. The U.S. Attorney General, Janet Reno, is not a U.S. citizen, and neither is the Secretary of the Treasurer. They both expatriated in 1948 when they joined Interpol, the International Police Organization, by treaty. And they transferred their allegiance to the International Police Organization. So the International Police Organization, Interpol, is the police arm of the creditor, the International Monetary Fund, and they are your accusers. They're trying to collect on a debt that the federal government owes and you owe because you're a U.S. citizen. So that's about as much as I can really talk about that without getting much more in depth, but it was a profound insight when we finally realized that we need to develop admiralty strategies for reclaiming within the court systems under maritime procedures by filing cross-claims. They claim that they own my vessel. Well, I'm another owner. I claim that I'm the owner of my vessel because I'm a sovereign citizen, and I'll file a cross-claim in Admiralty. In which case, when I do, it shifts back from equity back into Admiralty again. Now they have to produce the international contract with my signature on it, which they cannot do, and they may balk, and they may cry, and they may scream, and I will answer their screams and their cries, but I will show no mercy, because when I'm done with them, I will file a cross libel, which will then shift it from an admiralty to a common law. And a cross libel will then be directed individually at everyone involved in the fraud.